Hard work has paid off, and your Kansas City Chiefs are champions yet again. Patrick Mahomes wins the MVP. We have a ton to talk about. Congratulations, Chiefs Kingdom, and welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Thank you all for being here. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free. We are brought to you today by BetterHelp, sponsored by them. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional therapy done securely online and available to people worldwide. And they have the special offer right now for our listeners. You get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. Check them out. Check out the rest of the podcast network. The Eagles guys, they have some stuff to talk about. There's the draft show. There's all kinds of things. I made a special announcement on the last episode of the Locked On NFL Draft, so you should check that out, please. This was a game that is for the ages. And this is one of the reasons we cover football. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, where we run it all down, and RGR Football.
And I'm Chris Clark. Thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate it. We appreciate you guys being here all season long. We have really appreciated that. We will have Matt Derrick on tomorrow's show, so just a heads up on that. He's not able to make it. He's a little busy in Arizona right now, as you can imagine. If you haven't already, please go hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell on YouTube. And we also appreciate iTunes reviews and on Spotify. And I have to say, there's a ton to talk about. You're absolutely right. But I want to say this. One of my favorite comments after the game, put some respect on our name. It's exactly what needed to be said. Travis Kelce put it in to words. That is absolutely correct. And I absolutely love what he said. You got to fight for your right to party. Kansas City absolutely fought through adversity in a game where Patrick Mahomes looked like he might not even be able to play the second half.
They had to fight for their right to party, that's for sure. They had to fight all the way through it, through Patrick's injury, through honestly, an Eagles team that was punching him in the face up front and had the advantage for the majority of this ball game. I don't know how many sneaks went, but they all worked. And good for Travis for saying it, because this was a rebuild year, quote unquote. I can't think of a national media outlet that didn't count the Chiefs out because of the loss of Tyreek Hill. And these guys have earned the respect that Travis is talking about because they've gotten to this point and because they went and rebuild their franchise. This, in my opinion, is a win not just for Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes on down to Chris Lamons, who didn't actually get to play in this ball game, or Marcus Kemp, who just got called up, but it's for Brett Veach. It's for Sperduto in the scouting department. It's Ryan Nutt. It's Rick Burkholder and his whole staff. This is an organizational win, and they do deserve that respect. 4 trips in 3 years and 2 championships, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 season MVPs. This team has earned it. And yes, Patrick's the figurehead, but this is an organizational win.
It absolutely is. And the bigger thing to me is, you absolutely said it correctly. Patrick is the figurehead of this team. But you sit there and you watch what he says after the games, after even winning the Super Bowl. He wants to go party. He wants to go have a good time, but he's always praising his teammates. This was a game where I really do think you look at that offensive line, they stepped up huge. Patrick didn't get sacked once in this game. Hassan Reddick didn't sack him once. He only had 1 tackle in this game completely. That is phenomenal by Kansas City. If you would have told me that there was only 1 sack in the game, I would have told you you're freaking crazy. I would have easily taken the over at 4.5 sacks. Probably, because both of these teams were the best 2 teams in football getting after the quarterback. And really the only sack that you had was Saunders, who really didn't get him to the ground. He just kind of got him out of bounds.
Yeah, I mean, and kudos to Colin Saunders. That was the hustle play.
A great
of the
hustle
game.
play. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, yes, you can get to the point of, Nick Bolton certainly deserves consideration. I would call him the runner-up for MVP, to tell you the truth. You can call up Jerry Sneed for that second forced fumble. Like, the forced fumbles were big plays. But at the end of the day, it does come down to sealing that. And this was a team win. It was a team, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, set of adjustments at halftime, when not only has everyone counted you out from the beginning of the season, but I mean, nearly every national outlet today was picking the Eagles. The Eagles had your number early, and you adapted and you overcame, and you got contributions from older guys. Carlos Dunlap played a ton of snaps tonight and provided some pressure. Leo Chanel had the game of his career so far, in my opinion.
Did.
You had your contributions from young and old and everyone to get this championship under their belts. And now it's come true. And now we get to talk about Dynasty later in the week.
Yeah, and you have two young wide receivers who didn't do much for Kansas City this season and shine. Both of them shined in the spotlight late in the game. And say what you want, and we'll talk about Tony later, and I have a lot to say about him. I'm so happy for Sky Moore. He struggled so much with punt returns this season. For him to be able to catch his first NFL touchdown pass in the Super Bowl and just walk into the end zone, that had to have been amazing for him. Just so happy for the kid, and he's got a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah, he absolutely does. And it's going to be more detailed and more storied. I think that they're highlighting things and they're giving him more confidence. He's certainly going to be part of the core. The wide receiver group is going to be something we talk about quite a bit because there's two big decisions in Smith-Schuster and MVS that are coming this offseason. The youth there is incredible, and it mirrors that of the secondary, who I thought as a unit played nearly as well as they could have. Was Juan late on one of those first completions to A.J. Brown? Yes. Was there a blown coverage on Devonta Smith? Yes. If it wasn't for those two mistakes, I don't know that we're even concerned about what happened in this passing game from the Eagles tonight.
And quite frankly, I don't even know that touchdown pass to A.J. Brown was even a really good throw. I think A.J. tracked it and made it look like a fantastic throw.
True.
I don't think it was a good throw. He was not. He had to adjust the way he adjusted to go get that ball. He made a great play on it. And kudos to A.J. I'm not trying to take anything away from him at all. I just didn't think it was a great throw by Jalen Hurts. Hurts battled, though, and played very well throughout the game.
And I'll give Jalen Hurts credit. Jalen Hurts has a great demeanor about him. I was a fan of him at Alabama. Loved what he did at Oklahoma and the perseverance he showed there. Struggling early in his career in the NFL, putting it together. I'm a Hurts guy and have been from the beginning. But I think that sets this up for maybe we just might see these same two teams a year from now in this game again.
I don't know about that. There's a lot the Eagles have to figure out this offseason. Payne Hurts is one of them. They've got a ton of free agents. But we're not here to talk about the Eagles. We're here to talk about Kansas City winning this game, winning the second Super Bowl in 4 years under Patrick Mahomes, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 regular season MVPs, now 2 Super Bowl wins. What a special start to a career for number 15. And quite frankly, you absolutely said it right earlier. You get to start talking about dynasty at this point, and it's not too early to start talking about that.
No, it's really not. Now, on the backside, we'll talk about who stood out on the positive and what we can take away from that going forward.
But I want to tell you about our friends over at BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. When you're at your best, you can do great things, but sometimes life gets you bogged down and you may feel overwhelmed or like you're not showing up in the way you want to. Working with a therapist can help you get closer to the best version of you. Because when you feel empowered, you're more prepared to take on everything in life that it throws at you. And I can tell you from personal experience, it is very important to have your mental health go in the right direction because it really changes what you're able to do in your life. And BetterHelp has actually helped me. So I really do appreciate them as a sponsor. If you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, flexible, affordable, and entirely online. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. If you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon and get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/lockedon. BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
Now, help comes in a lot of different ways. It certainly came from the offensive line tonight. But if I had told you going into this Super Bowl that Patrick Mahomes would throw for 182 yards and only attempt 27 passes, would you have thought that was a win?
It's hard to say, quite honestly, because going against this Eagles defense, I really thought that they were going to have to run the ball more. Now, typically, would I think that's a Chiefs win? No. But going against this specific defense, it doesn't shock me. Kadarius Toney really turned the tide of this game. Andy Reid with a masterful play call to get Kadarius Toney open on the first touchdown that he caught, where he just basically walked into the end zone with nobody around him within 10 yards.
Yeah.
And then I said this on the Locked On NFL Today show, or the Locked On Today show. Andy Reid basically dunked on Gannon because he came back the next drive after Tony gets them down with a 65-yard punt return and calls the exact same play to the other side, and Sky Moore catches catches his first NFL touchdown in the Super Bowl. What a game for him.
I completely agree with you. And the fact that Kadarius Toney played one snap in the first half, that he was held in reserve. We know that he's been banged up, ankle and hamstring. And when you had to go to him, he stepped up, and Andy stepped up in getting him involved. I agree with you. He was one of the turning point players in this game. But the other thing that I will say this too is you took advantage of a DC who had to go hire Vic Fangio to come help him for the last 2 weeks. And Vic has not beaten Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes yet. So I think that
it has really slowed him down great.
Right. And you basically just defeated 2 defensive coordinators in one ball game to win another championship.
And I thought I saw that Vic Fangio was actually helping the Eagles offense get ready for the Chiefs defense. But regardless, interesting that he was there for the Eagles for 2 weeks. But I do want to point out something that I think is going to get overlooked. I didn't go back and rewatch this, but it's something I'm going to have to go back and rewatch at some point. But the first punt return Kadarius Toney had, I'm not so sure that ball didn't glance off the guy that was trying to block for him. It sure looked like Toney wasn't planning on catching that ball, and then all of a sudden he decided, oh, I need to go get that.
Okay.
That would have been a huge game-changing play that obviously didn't happen, but, great for him for having awareness there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are a number of standout plays on the defensive side. Forced fumble for a TD on the first one. I think, was that Willie that knocked that out that Nick then recovered? I think it was. So. And then the second one that L'Jarius knocked out, it was another forced fumble that Nick returned for a touchdown, did get called back. But the defense gave you play after play after play, despite playing all these rookies. Leo Chanel played as many snaps. Like George Kalafdis didn't play as much as he has been. Leo played a lot more than he has been. So on the average, you still got the same number of snaps roughly that you've been getting from your rookie class. I thought I saw edge out there from Josh Williams. I thought he made a couple of nice sticks. Every DB came up and run support really well. Which
was really interesting to see Williams in there, not Watson.
Watson was out there plenty as well.
I know.
But I always see him make plays. Yeah, right? But I will say this, in watching the way that this defensive backfield that we've talked about so much being rookies, A, they're no longer rookies because they played in the postseason. But B, I see L'Jarius Sneed's attitude, confidence, and attack wearing off on these younger guys. Now, I watched a lot of Jalen Watson in college when I was doing his eval for the draft last year. And while he was good and he was decent in run support, he did not have that edge that he had tonight and that he's had the last quarter of the season. Neither did Joshua Williams. So, it's not just that they're decent players. It's that the evolution of the players because of the guys in front of them, like L'Jarius Sneed, like Reed, I think that's really wearing off, and that just makes me feel better about their chances for putting some new wrinkles into this team, this 53 next year, and having a shot to come right back to it.
Yeah, they absolutely have a shot to come back and to be in the situation that Kansas City was in and to do what they were able to do. There's going to be a lot of time to talk about all the different things that are going to change on this roster and in the coaching staff, quite frankly, because I think there's some changes coming there as well, potentially, that we'll find out in the next week. Plenty of time to talk about that. But you start looking at, Trent McDuffie even. He got laid out by Jason Kelce. Absolutely laid out. Popped right back up and went and played.
Yep. And folks, that wasn't a dirty play on Jason Kelce's part. He was way downfield. He might have left early. That could have been a penalty. I'm not sure. Yeah. But that hit, there's nothing wrong with that. That was a football play, and kudos to Trent McDuffie for being tough enough to take that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were so many different plays in this game. And I just want to get this out there because I know people are going to bring it up. And I hate that they're going to have to bring it, that you're going to feel they need to bring it up. I really thought the refs did a really good job tonight. I know people are going to complain about the holding call. It was a hold.
Yeah, Bradbury came out and said it was a hold.
Yeah. He said it was a hold. Yeah. Now, whether or not that actually gets called most of the time, maybe not. but
It was
we don't
two
know
holds.
that actually right. It sure looked like it from my angle. So, to me, it made sense that he came in after the game, said it was a hold. I thought the refs did a really good job. I thought that they were on top of things. I absolutely loved, and this was one of the things that I was pointing out to everybody I was watching the Super Bowl with. On the second touchdown by Bolton that got called back, I was so happy that the refs did what they needed to do, and they held their whistles in their freaking mouths, didn't blow the whistle, and let the play out. Yeah. Because that is so important that you don't just call something dead on the field, because that has happened many times.
And I will tell you this too: you fans are going to hear from other fans, Eagles and otherwise, about how the refs somehow affected the outcome. You got to remember, 2 other calls went in the Eagles' favor, and other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of calls in this game. So I don't think that that's the case. And if you want to argue it, that's the way to argue it: is that they got more calls than the Chiefs did. So take it. They had a good season. The Eagles can try to come back. In the end, Chiefs took this championship because it was theirs, and they took it. Now, if you bet it, I hope that you got your money's worth, because our number one sports bet book in America is FanDuel. And even though now this NFL season is over, you can move on because there's still things that you can get into. Right now, it's the midway point of the NBA. I haven't even seen it yet. There's March Madness coming. It's the perfect time to go download FanDuel, the number one sports book in America, and get into the action, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets, because if your first bet doesn't win, that's what they give you. Just download the FanBook app. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Sorry about that. It's been a long night. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. And even I can attest to that, because I'm not very good at it. Then you can bet everything you want, from the money line to all the scores and all the threes drained whenever that you see them happen. It's going to take something to get through the next lull before there's football again. So check it out. Plus, FanDuel lets you combine all those things into a bigger payout in a same-game parlay. So right now, don't miss the chance. It's a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. You can see it right there under Chris. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon and learn more. Make every moment count with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NFL and the NBA. Now, if I was going to bet, I would not have bet 2 specific stats. One, that Patrick Mahomes would not be sacked in this ballgame. How surprising is that to you?
Extremely. And Patrick Mahomes, I think, came out after the game and said that the offensive line heard enough of the Eagles were going to dominate this entire game. And they just said, no, you're not going to hit Patrick. And, I mean, don't get me wrong. He got hit. Yeah. There were several times he got hit. He is going to get – the way he plays, he's going to get hit. That's the way he plays. That's how he's always been. But they didn't allow a sack. They got really close multiple times, but they did not allow a sack. So, you saw what Andrew Wiley was able to do. We'll have to look at the stats once we get them from PFF and from all the different sites as to how many pressures different people allowed and what Hassan Reddick was able to do. But their best pass rusher, Hassan Reddick, not getting a sack. And I don't even know that he hit Patrick Mahomes very often. He only got 1 tackle. He was basically wiped out of this game plan. Now, a lot of that is Andy Reid in the game plan and the scheme, and that's huge. But the offensive line came out and played, and they played phenomenal. And I know we have so much more to talk about, but I have to say one thing before it doesn't get mentioned on this show, because it was such a huge heads-up play. Jerick McKinnon, thank you so much for knowing football and being smart. Because that was such a huge play. Yeah. He bounced it outside and he got down on the 2-yard line. Huge play for Kansas City. Huge play to give it to Butker to be able to win the game at the very end.
I agree. And thank you to everybody that's in the chat. Aaron Morrow and a bunch of old friends ever coming over. We appreciate you being here live, you guys. If you are seeing this on replay, thank you as well. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell on YouTube. Now, the second thing that really surprised me, and I had to go look this up during the RGR live stream. 1 incompletion in the second half for Patrick Mahomes on a bum ankle that got at least aggravated. I won't say re-injured, because I was thankfully relieved to see that his foot didn't get trapped under on that play. I think then it would have been a serious re-injury.
Yeah, I almost wondered if he broke it. The way it looked like he was in pain, I almost wondered if he broke his foot. That was my real concern when I saw how much pain he was in, because he never shows that.
Right.
Like, he limps off, he does all that, but you never see that type of anguish and pain, and you absolutely saw it from him this time. He played phenomenal, and it's quite, you look at what he was able to do, the postseason. Everybody said when you start talking about Mahomes, he hasn't performed well in Super Bowls. You can still, if you want to try to say that about the Super Bowl, you can. He threw for under 200 yards, but he had some huge rushes, and he threw for 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Say what you want. He won the game.
Yeah. And there's no way around that. The offensive line contributed to that. Kels is Kels. I mean, there's no denying the Hall of Fame caliber that Travis Kelce is. But Juju Smith-Schuster stood up today. A guy that has been injured.
Absolutely.
Left knee.
It was phenomenal.
9 targets for him tonight. Came up with 7 catches. And they were lesser catches. MVS was targeted just one time on that one where he got turned over around the wrong shoulder. So I don't know if they were looking to take him away more. I'm going to have to see the ultimate and see what the safeties were doing in particular. But this is another aspect of having multiple pass catchers that can step up to help Travis Kelce. That's what they had to have tonight. You got huge.
No Gray had a catch.
No Gray had a catch. Pacheco ran. He was the best back on the field tonight. Yes, Jalen Hurts ran all over them for the 270 yards total, but a grand total of 45 yards for the running backs from Philadelphia, whereas Pacheco himself had 76 and Patrick had 44.
Yeah, Patrick basically almost outrushed the entire Philadelphia Eagles running back room. That is crazy. And he did it on a bum ankle because most of his runs were in the second half. And that run that he had down the middle of the field when it opened up at the end of the game, I'm sitting there going, get down, get down, get down, get down, get down.
Now, that said, I thought the defense stepped up in a way that it had to, but it had to be pushed. I was a little concerned that the defensive line got beat up all night long. The interior 3, the Eagles, are elite, as well as the Chiefs' interior 3. And they had the better game tonight coming off the ball. And I don't blame Chris Jones for getting pissed off. And I'm glad he did, because I did think that rallied everyone. But they still got beat off the ball quite a bit, even in the second half. Every short yardage play.
No, they absolutely did. But be fair about it. It is probably the best line in football. So if you're going to get beat by a offensive line, to get beat by the best offensive line in football, and quite frankly, the other side of it is I'm not so sure that this isn't a top line in NFL history to an extent, with the way they're able to move the ball, with the way they're able to run their offense. This offensive line is phenomenal, and they're probably going to get better unless somebody retires, which is possible because you have Lane Johnson and you have Jason Kelce, who are both up there in age.
True. All right, so we said we're going to do 3 players of the game and a game ball. Is that how we're doing this?
Yep, I think we need to do 3 players each because, okay, let's be fair about it. Mahomes is going to get one, so I think we throw him out regardless. We're not going to have Mahomes be one of the players of the game.
Okay.
Obviously, he was the MVP, not trying to take anything away from him. I want to go for 3 other players that made huge contributions tonight that deserve credit for what they were able to do.
Okay. You want to start? Or you want me to start?
Go ahead.
I know where you're going to go probably, so I'll stay on the defensive side, and I'll give it to Nick Bolton for being the leader, for being the guy that takes care of what he had to take care of. He was at a disadvantage. He was exposed a couple of times, but he was heads up there. He should have had a second touchdown, for the love of God. He was all over the place.
So you thought that was a completion?
I think that it was, because it was controlled. There were 2 feet down in my mind. Exactly. Yes. Did he take another step? No. But both feet were planted. It was not a bobble. There was no loss of control at all. So I felt that was legit. But that said, I thought Nick Bolton should have been the runner-up for the MVP in this particular game. So he will be the guy that I start with.
I have to give it to Kadarius Toney. And I got to give it to Toney for he didn't play much, but when he did play, he made huge plays for this team. Only 1 snap in the first half, like you said, but he was the punt returner. I think he got probably 10 yards on the first punt return, and then that second punt return was huge, 65 yards. You see him run to the left, and you think, oh God, he's going to get swallowed up and Just hold on to the ball. That's all we really care about. After 6 or 7 yards, then he does a jitterbug type move and just runs off to the right and just takes it all the way down the field. And great blocking by the Chiefs on the backside to get him out into space and let him do what he does. That was phenomenal by them. And his route that he ran, obviously that was an Andy Reid play call. Obviously Andy Reid knew what he was doing calling that play call for Kadarius Toney, but he set it up perfectly. And Toney gets a touchdown, and you look at what they gave up for Toney, he's already been worth what they gave up for him. If he's not in this game, I don't know that they win the Super Bowl.
Agreed.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Second guy for me is when the chips are down, Patrick's hurt, you have to move the ball. I need to see the all 22 to make sure that I understand exactly what they're doing. But from what I saw, it was a concerted effort to double, play in space, and take Travis away. And someone had to step up, and that was Juju Smith-Schuster, a guy that's been hurt, a guy that hasn't been the focus. MVS got all the glory last time. I think he's a guy that has to come back. We'll talk about that all offseason, folks. Don't worry about that. But you have to have someone else that can take that, again, tough part of the field between the hashes that I've talked about all year long. It was Juju Smith-Schuster that moved the ball and got them first downs when they had to have them. And without him, I don't think that offense is able to put up the points that they did.
No, I agree. And I thought Juju played a great game. Like you said, 9 targets, 7 catches, and none of them were huge catches, maybe, lots of yards on those catches, but they moved the chains on a lot of them. And that's what's important.
4 first downs.
There you go. And I knew it was up there in his numbers. I just couldn't remember exactly how many. He played great, and he got his first Super Bowl win. I'm really curious as to see what he's able to do in the offseason. Can he get his knees under control? Is that something that he can get fixed? Because that is going to be an issue if he continues to have that going forward. And you're right. I would like to see him back in Kansas City. That's something we'll talk about later. And I want to emphasize this, I never would have expected to give a game ball to this guy. But I got to give it to Andrew Wiley.
Wow.
I'm not going to say that he is the only reason that they stopped Hassan Reddick, because he got plenty of help. He got chips. He got tight ends going at Reddick. He got running backs going at Reddick. Well, he did what he needed to do, and he kept Reddick off Mahomes. And say what you want about him getting help, doesn't matter. Hassan Reddick was one of the best pass rushers in football this year, and Andrew Wiley didn't give up a sack. That's all that really mattered in this game. You give Patrick the ability to throw the ball and move around in the pocket. That's all he needs. He did exactly what he needed to do, and he had a phenomenal game in the biggest moment.
There's one play, and I'll have to drag it out or find the replay, and it really exemplified what Andrew Wiley did tonight, because Andrew Wiley's at a disadvantage against Hassan Reddick all the way up until contact. And after that, he has a strength advantage. He has the wingspan advantage. And that's what he showed tonight. There's one play where Reddick tries 3 different spin moves on one play, and Wiley's all over him the entire time. And that's really what it takes is to play up to your skills and don't get taken advantage of a way that you can defend. Anybody can get to you by exploiting your weakness. It's being able to shore up everything else. And I agree with you. I think Wiley played great. Excuse me, I'm going hoarse here a little bit. You never know what's going to happen.
Considering I think we were probably both yelling at the TV at different times throughout the game.
Not me. No, I would never do that.
Yeah, I call bull.
My last game ball goes to the guy that I think saved this ball game. And a lot of people are going to expect that to be Patrick Mahomes. We already ruled him out of this conversation because he's so great, folks. Yes, they can't win anything without Patrick. That is true. But on the other side, if it's not for Chris Jones and what he did, there's no way they come back from this game because of how bad they were getting moved off the ball in the first half. If it isn't Chris Jones's fire that I think spreads through the locker room at halftime, I don't think, even with the adjustments, that this defense was going to be able to stand up to that. It takes scheme. It takes coaching. Steve Spagnuolo did a great job of adjusting in half, but it takes somebody driving the bus and lighting the fire, and that was Chris Jones. Did Chris Jones get a sack tonight? No. I can live with that. because he got everybody else fired up. He got Colin Saunders to go hunt him down. He got Leo Chanel to be in position. Leo actually recorded a sack too. It was basically a TFL that happened to be on a quarterback. But without that, without Chris Jones, I don't think any of that happens.
I hate doing this because I know it's a game ball. We're supposed to give it to one person, but I got to give it to the defensive line, period. Quite frankly, I mean, you look at what they were able to do in this game, and the biggest storyline going into this game is the Eagles run the ball and they run it over you. That did not happen in this game. Yes, Jalen Hurts was able to run. Yes, it's a little bit different when they're doing the 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, and they're doing their little submarine play in their quarterback sneak. Yes, that is successful against this defensive line. But to hold those running backs to 45 yards and to not allow them to really hurt Kansas City made them almost have to force Jalen Hurts to do what he did most of the game. Quite frankly, he beat Kansas City on some great passes throughout the game.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what you needed to do, is to force him to be able to prove that he can do that. The defensive line just played fantastic tonight. Yes, there's plays that you wish that they would have made, but all in all, they tackled, they fought, they rallied to the ball. That was one of the biggest things that you kept seeing over and over and over again. Was it didn't matter if one Chief hit him 2 or 3 yards before the first down marker, there was usually 2 or 3 Chiefs right behind getting in on the tackle as well and making sure that they didn't get any more yards. That was huge. Yes, they missed some tackles. It happens. I think there's 3 tackles that were missed on one play.
Absolutely.
But overall, defensive line showed up and did exactly what they needed to do in this game and stopped the Eagles' running game from really giving them a hard time throughout the entire game and really in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, somebody's going to have to come up with some way to stop those sneaks, but it ain't going to be me, because until you can shut down that interior, if Jason Kelce retires, I don't know. Maybe you can finally stop him, but that was a play that just wasn't going to fail. I mean, and when you look at the drive chart, the Chiefs ended up with 8 possessions. Eagles had 10. And yet the Chiefs were able to outscore them. And yes, we know one was a defensive and one was returned to the 6-yard line.
Yeah.
It's a team win. And that's what my favorite thing about this is. It wasn't just going out and putting up board. This was a team win. Both sides of the ball, special teams, everyone contributed, coaching adjustments, obviously getting this team in place for all the scouts, all the trainers, all the athletic professional department, the strength conditioning. It was a sneeze in the microphone, which I never do. I'm so sorry, folks. This was an organizational win. Bottom line, I said it at the top of the show, I'm going to say it again. This is an organizational win from Clark Hunt down to the guy that drove the cart that took the pads up the hill in camp. Everybody won tonight.
Yeah, they did. And it was a phenomenal game plan. I was trying to see, there's a tweet earlier that just really encapsulated what this team was able to do, and I was trying to find it. But they showed up when the lights came on the biggest. They scored when they absolutely had to in the second half, down 10 points at halftime, and to come out and score, what was it? They were down, it was 14, and they ended up scoring. So they scored 24 points in the second half against the number 1 defense in football. Yep. That's just, it's ludicrous. And here we are. And you and I both said we're not going to give it to this guy, but I do want to say this. 5 years as a starter, 5 straight AFC championship games, 5 straight division titles, 5 straight 12-win seasons, 5 straight Pro Bowls, 2 Super Bowl wins, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and now 2 NFL MVPs. Patrick Mahomes is one of one. And I'll say it right now. He's the Michael Jordan of the NFL right now.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of that, shameless plug on my part. If you go over to bit.ly/RGR store, you can have my brand new design of the MVP M15 that has an eerily similar look to something that Patrick does on a regular basis in throwing a pop pass. It's super cool. I'm really proud of it. I think you guys will dig it. So if you would, I would appreciate the look. Calling him Jordan is a conversation we're going to have going forward, because I happen to agree with you. And I think there's a lot of takeaways and similarities we can pull from it.
To be clear, I'm not saying he's Jordan as he's the GOAT already. I'm saying he's Jordan as the intangibles of what he is able to bring to the team and what he is able to do to elevate the players around him.
I can't argue with that at all. We're going to talk dynasty coming up. We're going to take this time until the parade and celebrate. We'll talk about what the future brings, what the overall is going to be, and how they can turn this into a true dynasty that continues to put them in the conversation with the Patriots organization. We're going to talk about free agency because that's coming as well. Draft has already started prepping on NFL33.com, where me and my team are doing all of our work for the new draft class, because there's at least 7, could be up to 12 new Chiefs in that draft class that you want to know about. We're doing all of that over there, and we have more to come here on this channel. We are year round. I know season's always the funnest part, but don't go away, because we're going to guide you through this entire offseason as well. 5 days a week, every single week. We have a ton coming. And I do want to make one more comment, and I don't usually do this, but somebody made a comment that I disagree with in the chat, and I do want to throw this out. I give kudos to Rihanna for performing, knowing that she is pregnant. She just came off of pregnancy. I thought she sounded great. I didn't think she was lip syncing, and I see a lot of people complaining about her, and I thought, hey, she was wearing red. The stage was red and white. I took that as an omen, and I think it helped. It's just me. I'm superstitious.
Congratulations, Chiefs Kingdom. You are Super Bowl champions. Super Bowl 57 was a fantastic game. It is going to be a lot of fun to cover this team going forward for the next multiple years, and we are looking forward to it. We will have you covered 5 days a week, like Ryan said. And Matt Derrick will be back with us tomorrow to talk about this game and what he saw in Arizona. Be sure to check that out.
Have a good time. And yes, folks, I hope you enjoyed the entire show. We'll be back with you. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like, sub, hit the bell over on YouTube, and let us know your takeaways. Who was your player of the game on YouTube? It's the easiest way to get to us is in the comments there on the YouTube channel. So thanks for your time. We'll talk to you tomorrow.